Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about interior design trends for 2026 that are going to be super hot, okay? This is the companion piece to last week's video where I talked about what is out for 2026. And so this year, I'm going to actually mention what is out for 2026 and then talk about what is in, because let's be honest, design always moves in a pendulum, right? People get really excited about a trend and they get really into it and then people have fun with it and then it gets really cheap and tacky and overdone and then people go in the opposite direction and that's how design trends work. Okay, so we're gonna be talking about what is out a little bit, and then we're gonna talk about what is in. I'm gonna give you more information there. So let's get going. And as always, usual disclaimer on this channel, if you don't like trends, because there's always the, I don't like trends people in the comment section. I hear you, I get you. Why are you here? Stop clicking on videos about interior design trends when you don't like them. Not everything in this world or on the internet is for you. So move right along and we're all gonna be happy campers chatting about trends together. Okay, what is out, of course, as I said last week, is overused fluting and reading. Not that it's necessarily bad, but I will say what we're moving towards, especially I want to talk about countertops and because I think this is a huge one, and that is countertop edge profiles being a lot more interesting. That is very in, and I love this. I have talked about this for many years. I'm so glad it's finally getting its due because I do think that there are far more, not that a waterfall countertop is bad. I do think it's like a fine, timeless choice. I've said that before, it's fine. Like it's a great choice. And same with like a straight edge, like you can do whatever you want, but there's so many interesting ones that are out there. There's so much cool stuff you could do. Are they more complicated? Yes. Is complicated mean expensive? Yes. Talk to your fabricator, but these make such a massive difference in a home. So if you're thinking of doing a kitchen renovation or something, think about having fun. I'm seeing this a lot in commercial applications. Typically, I like to see what commercial is doing because I do think that informs the trends when it comes to residential, because in the same way fashion also sets a lot of trends in residential design, commercial does as well, because commercial restaurants are always trying to look to be the hottest place. You know what I mean? The coffee shops are always trying to be like, what's the new hot thing? And they want to kind of push the envelope with their design because they want to keep it interesting, and designers love that, and they want to create a space that's really fun for people to go to. Residential design is, I think, usually a little bit more restrained, and it's usually a little bit slower to adapt. And I think we're seeing these countertop edge profiles are everywhere in commercial design and have been for a few years, and I think you're going to see a lot more of them in people's own homes, which I loved. What is out briefly, and again, all this stuff was in last week's video. For more in-depth stuff, please see there. But what is out is the all beige look, okay? So that is when everything is monotone beige, because let me get you a little up to speed on trends in the last decade, okay? We had the all white trend, then we had the all gray trend, and then we had the all beige trend. And even though Pantone is predicting that it's back to white, I'm not buying it, because I don't think that that's where we're headed. I think we're starting to see a lot more tonal variation in our colors. So the all brown, everything beige, and everything the exact same shade of beige, that I think is going to look pretty out. I think mixing in different types of stone, different types of color, we'll get to that in a second, and different textures and different types of beige, right? So there's lots of different, or mixing beige and gray, and mixing all different types of colors and different neutrals and different things together. The monotone everything beige thing is just really boring and bland. We've seen it with kids' rooms. I've made fun of it many times. It's the almond mom aesthetic, right? A lot of you are like, hey, you have a lot of beige behind you. As you all know, I'm a hypocrite. I'm comfortable with that. I don't care. So I hear you, but I am saying that I do think that this monotone, everything being samey is out. Look for more tints, tones, and shades of beige, okay? You've got lots of different ones with different undertones. You've seen Benjamin Moore's color this year, right? It's kind of a beigey, darky, beigey, purpley color, right? So it's earthy at the same time. So incorporating in these types of shades makes a lot of difference, and I think it makes a place feel a lot more interesting. The other thing I'm going to mention, of course, is color. Unapologetic color. We're seeing this mixed into neutral spaces, yes, with big, bold colored cabinetry, for example, big, fantastic pattern colored armchair, or of course, maximalism, which I do think has been toned down quite a bit. I think it's a lot more controlled than it used to be a few years ago, where we had the sort of rebellion against all neutral spaces, and it was a cacophony of color, and it was screaming at you 24/7. That's out. So we're definitely moving more towards something a little bit more controlled, but definitely the all beige is out. We're moving towards something a little bit more colorful. Okay, what is out is the glass shower box, but what is in, I think, is these beautiful metal enclosures that people have in their bathrooms. I also will give a little honorable mention to like people's wine racks, the big giant glass block, the giant cube that people have in their entryways or dining areas or something, or kitchens, or they throw them all over the place. And I don't love those. I don't think they're very interesting. I think displaying your alcoholism, go for it. But like for me, me, it's just not the move. I do think though that glass enclosures, especially in things like the bathroom, are boring and not all that interesting. But I think what you're seeing now is a lot more fun with metal. So people having a lot more fun with brass and bronze and just creating something a little bit more tailored, a little bit more custom, and not just, hey, let's just throw sheets of glass on a wall and see what happens. I also think that it's really fun when you're inside a shower to feel a little bit more enveloped in the experience, as opposed to so exposed like you do in sort of these very glass blocks, even if there's no one in there with you. I'm not saying anybody's spying on you, peeking through the windows, but I am saying that when you're there in your bathroom, it's just nice to feel a little bit like you're safe. You know what I mean? When you're vulnerable, when you're in there, when you see some opaque film that's sort of put on top, or maybe the glass is reeded or fluted or something to be able to obscure, and it just kind of creates a little bit more privacy in that room. And these metal enclosures just do really a great job at making you just feel like it's a more intimate and interesting experience, as opposed to feeling so exposed by these big glass cubes. Okay, so what is out is these endless rows of lights, and also the canned lighting, the builder grade canned lighting, which is usually never flattering for anybody. What they're being replaced with, I think, is more sculptural lighting. People, if you're gonna do something over top of a kitchen island, you can choose to do no lighting, which I think is a fine choice. I think you don't have to do anything there, or you keep it really, really simple. You don't necessarily need to have the pendants hanging down like heat lamps at a buffet in order to make your kitchen island look interesting. You can do beautiful sculptural lighting and really, really have fun with it. And I'm noticing a lot more people taking lighting that used to be reserved for the dining area, or perhaps over top of a bed, or perhaps in a living room maybe even, and taking that really cool, beautiful sculptural lighting and putting that over top of a kitchen island. I think people are having a lot more fun than that, as opposed to the three sort of lantern pendants that we have seen a billion times before. Again, not saying any of this is bad, I'm just saying some of it is, but I'm not saying, it's just that some of it is moving more in a different direction, because like I said at the beginning of the video, people like different. That's how trends work, okay? People want different based on what came before, and I think people are seeing this sort of lighting many, many times. You're seeing the exact same lantern light and thinking, what can we do that's different? And I think big, bold sculptural lighting is part of it. Now, instead of those pot lights, I will say I'm seeing a trend towards people upgrading those into something like bullet lights, or maybe even spotlights that are just, again, a little bit more interesting. It's a moment to have a little bit of metal on the ceiling to draw your eye upwards. People, making your ceilings more interesting has been a trend that we've seen for a few years. The lighting is a part of that story. And so instead of just having boring pot lights, thinking maybe we don't need as many of them. First of all, builders, can we like tone down a little bit? You don't need that much canned lighting. And instead picking your spots, picking your moments. Yes, of course, you still got the sconces and the accent lighting and all the stuff we've talked about. But if you're gonna put lighting in the ceiling, why not make it a little bit more interesting and having a little bit more fun? And seeing it in brass and bronze and different materials and chrome even, I think is really cool. So definitely seeing more of that. Okay, what I think is out is excessive bold marble. Okay, so I love marble as much as the next person. In fact, I would dare say that I probably love marble more than your average person. I think that's probably fair. I think we're starting to see marble that chooses its moments, right? Marble that picks its moments, because not everything has to be made of marble. Note to the influencers of the world that designed their like bathrooms, or interior designers sometimes, I hear you, I see you, but like sometimes I think that the excessive marble, the Russian oligarch look, like I said, it's out, it's boring. People are just kind of tired of it. And I think what you instead see is people saying, okay, maybe we don't have to do all the walls and the ceiling and the flooring in marble. Maybe we can just have a really beautiful vanity, perhaps with an interesting countertop edge profile. That to me is more bang for your buck. So I'm saving you money here, guys. Yeah, okay. You're gonna get more, I think, impact from a really beautiful vanity with a beautiful, gorgeous stone top than you are with cladding everything in marble. Or dare I even say, you can't afford marble on all the walls because, again, you don't deal drugs. And so instead you're like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? I know, I'm just gonna go get the glossy porcelain fake marble tiles and put them all over the place. It's the same thing, right? It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing, and we all know that. Please see my video on honest materials that I did, because it's not the same thing. So now what it is just let your walls be your walls. There's lots of cool things. There's micro cement and plasters and drywall, and like you put art, tile. Those are all great things that have been around for a very long time and are also wonderful for the bathroom. And instead, pick your moment with your marble. Maybe it's an interesting shelf. Maybe it's the baseboard. Maybe it's a bench inside your shower if it's big enough for that. Maybe it's that cool vanity I talked about. Pick your moments with your marble. Have fun with it, get bold. I do think that people are not just sticking to the basic Carrera marble, but instead thinking, okay, I can have fun. I can do Rosso Levanto, I can do Calcutta Viola, I can do Calcutta Monet. I have lots of different cool marbles I could do. Think of the possibilities, but picking your moments with them. Okay, what I said was out last week and I still think is out today, which is blobby furniture. This might be wishful thinking on my part, I'm not gonna lie, but I do think we're done with the blobs. I think everything being really organic is a little bit tiresome. And instead, I think we're gonna see the return of structured geometrics. And I think this is driven by one of my favorite interior design styles, Art Deco. I think Art Deco is very, very popular, continuing to be. And I think big, interesting, symmetrical, geometric, like structured pieces are gonna be really big this year. Yes, we're still gonna see curves, right? That's part of the story. I'm not talking about curves, I'm talking about blobs. I'm talking about everything being squiggly and organic-y. I think that we're maybe a little bit tired of it, and I think we're gonna see a return to really beautiful, interesting geometric shapes and patterns being used again. So geometrics just feel really powerful, they feel really like strong, they just feel like really masculine, and they're just really a powerful statement, I think, in a space, and it always makes an impact. And so I think we're gonna see more of that in the coming next couple of years. And again, Art Deco, I think, is gonna be a big, big part of that story. Okay, what I think is out a little bit is gonna be white boucle, and many have called the death of white boucle, but you know, I still talk to furniture retailers all the time and they're still telling me that it sells. So people are buying it. People are still buying a lot of white boucle. I don't completely hate it. I do think that it has a place. It is textural and therefore can feel really interesting. Do I recommend it for high traffic? No, I do not. If you have cats, sounds like a scratching post to me. But anyway, I do think that we're seeing less of it. What is in though is gonna be more colored boucle. And that may not be what a lot of you wanna hear because a lot of you are really kind of tired of it. But this has been true, I think, for a good year or two. We're seeing a lot of boucles in chocolate brown and rust and green and all sorts of different colors. And I think people will continue to have fun with boucle. But what I also want to mention really is it's not just all about boucle. Okay, we need to also talk about other interesting textural fabrics, right? Really cool linens or velvets or things that, again, I think are going to be really, really popular. That Art Deco trend that I talked about, still really popular, and that therefore, fabrics like velvet I think are going to really become more popular as we move into 2026. So I actually don't think that white boucle is going to be completely gone, but I do think we're going to see more interesting textural fabrics being used in design, especially colored fabrics, because that's really popular. And I'm gonna also throw in patterns. So if you're a person who loves plaid, if you're a person who loves florals, which I'm not, but maybe you do you, then I think seeing that is also gonna be really fun. And people are just gonna have a lot more fun with those interesting, cool patterns and color and texture that's not just everything cream white boucle. Okay, and next up, what is out, of course, I said last week, was black hardware. And what is in, I think, really a couple of things. I think brass and bronzed, specifically unlacquered brass, because it kind of patinas and looks a little bit more like bronze as it darkens over time, and also chrome. Now, brass, I just say, I'm not always a big metal trend person, okay? I've said that before on the channel. I just think pick the metals that make sense for the mood that you're trying to create in your space, right? Whatever you're trying to do, the metal usually will kind of start to make sense, and just have fun with it. I don't always really buy in because there's just not that many metals that really change it up. So I don't love all those, but I have to mention that unlacquered brass and bronze are still very, very, very popular. Brass never, I feel like, really goes away. I mean, say that now, but watch, I'm gonna be sitting here in 2030 saying like, oh my God, brass is so out, you guys. But people have been saying for 15 years. For 15 years I've seen brass being really popular. When I did my old, designed my juice shops that I owned years and years and years ago, like we put brass in then, and people were like, is brass over? It never went out, it never went anywhere. Now, it kind of is very adaptable as well. So like the all white kitchen trend that I talked about, like 2014, 2015, guess what the hardware choice was at the time? A lot of it was brass, right? So brass, still very much there. I will say unlacquered brass, one that has depth and patina, looks a little bit more antique, that is going to be the more popular choice. Bronze is also really popular, kind of a bit similar to brass, I think, and sort of occupies that same sort of space because it's a little bit darker, it's got a little bit more kind of a mood, and fits a lot of those darker color tones that we're seeing in design right now. The other one is chrome. Chrome is everywhere. Chrome is in furniture, you're seeing it in decor, seeing candlesticks, like, whatever. IKEA's in on the chrome trend. Chrome is everywhere, and I would not have said that was true 3 years ago. Like a few years ago, chrome wasn't anywhere. People were really avoiding anything silver, but now we're seeing a lot more chrome. It's shiny, it's glossy, it fits with Art Deco, it fits with a lot of postmodern pieces, a lot of those 80s and 90s things that are back again, all that stuff. Chrome is huge. Okay, and next on my list, okay, so open floor plans are out, I would say. And like I said in last week's video, I don't think they're like out because people just don't change their houses that quickly. But I do think that we're seeing a little bit more balance. So everything was open floor plan, you know, several years ago. And I think now we're seeing more of a traditional or a closed floor plan. A lot of people are cheering this, and I think it's great. I think it's great to have both different types because I personally believe that both are great and just for different ways of living, different families, right? For open concept, you've got great for hosting, great for taking care of the kids, like you can feel like everybody's included in the conversation, great for like whatever. It's great for all of that. But closed floor plan, you're able to, you know, smells and noises and all the rest, you're able to kind of separate out, you know, the mess. Like a lot of people say in an open floor plan, I hate walking in my house and seeing that the dirty dishes are on the countertop, and I wish I could just like segment that away. And a closed floor plan is great for that because you can have a really dirty kitchen and then leave it alone and walk into the living room and not have to really worry about it. So it depends. Some people love it, some people don't. I personally just think that different people can like different things, and there's nothing wrong with either. Well, there's advantages and disadvantages to both, but I do like to see a little bit more closed and traditional floor plans because I just know that a lot of people love them. So definitely seeing more of those. I'm not sure I'm seeing like everybody take their open floor plans and putting walls up all over the place. I don't necessarily believe that that's the case, but I do think we're seeing some variation in how homes are built, which I think is a wonderful thing. Okay, next item that is out is going to be like white and gray marble, and I'm going to include like quartz and stuff like that in this conversation because yeah, quartz is really like quartz is obviously it's a man-made stone if you're not familiar, and oftentimes is meant to mimic marble and other sort of natural stones, but it doesn't require any sealing, so it's much more resistant to staining, which is why a lot of people love it. So you know, quartz is great and marble's great. I'm not mad at any of them. I'm saying like they are a little bit less trendy than they were. Now, I will die on this hill that a Carrara marble or something is a timeless choice for people. So I'm saying they're out in terms of they're not as trendy as they were, but that's okay. What is in right now is that people are having a lot more fun with colored stone. Yes, which we talked about, especially picking your moments, but I specifically want to shout out quartzite because I think quartzite is such an interesting, beautiful example of some of the benefits of granite and some of the benefits of marble. So granite typically, and please talk to your fabricator and stone supplier, okay? Because every stone is different. So sometimes people like really simple answers to complex questions, and unfortunately that's not always how it works, especially with dealing something as important as countertops. So make sure to talk to your fabricator before proceeding, okay? But generally, granite is a very hard substance, right? So it's great for kitchen countertops because you can kind of bang around with your pots and pans and things, and it's not going to, well, I shouldn't say not going to, but it's a lot less likely to chip than something much softer material. Marble is much softer than granite, right? So more likely to chip and things like that. Usually it's also, it can be a lighter color, although that's not always true. And so sometimes depending on staining and stuff, some people find like a dark brown granite that was popular in like the 2000s is better at hiding like long-term stains and things than like a really beautiful white marble, which again, not as hard and a lot more likely to stain. So you've got kind of those two extremes. Then you got quartzite, and quartzite sort of sits in the middle, and it's kind of generally, again, I'm being very general here, quartzite is as like hard as granite, or it's kind of harder than marble. And so kind of inching towards some of the benefits that you get with granite, but it's also got sort of a lot more swirlies and veining and sort of the color tones that people are looking for here in 2025, moving into 2026. So I think that quartzite sort of has struck a beautiful balance of the two. If you want to know what the hot stone of the moment is, it's Taj Mahal. You've probably maybe seen it all over social media. It is a beautiful stone. It is a quartzite, but there's also lots of other super cool quartzites as well. But quartzite in general was like 3, 4, 5 years ago, was not really talked about. It was granite, it was quartz, and it was marble. Those were the three. And yes, you've got other ones like travertine and whatever. You got your limestones and your soapstones and whatever, but for the most part, those were kind of the big three, the man-made choice, and then you got the two others. And now what we're seeing is quartzite has really sort of been elevated, I would say, in the conversation. And it's quartz and porcelain are your man-made stones, and now you've got granite, you've got marble, and then you've got quartzite. Onyx and soapstone and all that, a little bit more niche. But quartzite, very popular, was less popular a few years ago. Gonna continue to be popular, I think, as we move forward. I love quartzite. I think you do kind of get the best of both worlds, which is why a lot of people love it. But again, remember, it can still stain and still, just like any natural stone. So just be careful and always talk to your fabricator. Okay, that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna link here to the video I did last week where I talked about the trends that are out for this year. So if you like this one, you'll probably like that one. And I'm gonna build a little bit more off of some of those things that I mentioned in this video. So I will see you all in that video, and happy 2026, by the way. Happy New Year. I'll see you all next year. Thanks a lot. Bye.